Welcome to Chris' wild adventure, where he has to enter the room and chat with Susan, who brings up her mother. Sensitive Chris is reluctant to dive into the topic, but Susan just chuckles and spins her coffee cup. Surprisingly, Chris takes the bait and starts talking. Riding the wave of Susan's topic, Chris finds herself back on that rainy night when her mother died. Little Chris saw everything but didn't scream or go out to check. She sat like a meditating Buddha, quietly bracing for the nightmare, terrified of loss. The instant she uttered a cry for help, her mother's passing away would inevitably become a harsh reality. Chris' eyes instantly widened, and her limbs grew rigid beyond measure. Her body seemed to exit stage left, plummeting into a pitch-black thought space. Outside, the world looked like a vivid painting, clear to see, yet forever out of reach. Just as she was about to sink into the abyss, Chris jolted awake, realizing it had all been a dream. Time for a second breakfast. She plugged in her phone and grabbed her camera, excitedly heading to the nearby woods for a morning photo shoot. But upon returning, she caught a glimpse of the maid in front of the mirror. Curiosity got the best of her, and as she raised her camera, the maid caught her in the act. Chris quickly turned away and faked shooting the scenery, but when she looked back, the maid was already gone. Her attention then shifted to the gardener chopping wood. She wanted to greet the gardener, who just happened to be black too, but instead he apologized. Chris suddenly realized she had really been hypnotized. What a plot twist. Of course, a fascinating plot deserves sharing with a girlfriend. Singles, join hand-holding for high-educated elites. We offer thorough info and screenings totally trustworthy. Choose who you like first. Use hand-holding to find a partner. Chris smoked a cigarette, feeling nauseated. She had to tell Rosie about Susan's hypnosis. Rosie didn't buy into her mom's hypnosis being that powerful. She reassured Chris to keep calm, and just then, their friends' cars rolled up for the annual. But then, something weirder happened. This wealthy bunch jumped out and immediately embraced the gardener like they were long-lost buddies. Not only that, they all seemed to know Chris and were very curious about her life, with one old man's wife even giving her a good once-over. Chris felt like a product on display, so she picked up her camera to pass the time, only to accidentally spot a black figure among the old white guys. Little did she know, finding a black guy among those old white guys was like a breath of fresh air. But when she tried to say hi, the black guy in front of her had a blank look and moved like he was vintage. Chris suddenly thought he looked familiar. Before she could ask, an old white lady strolled over and pulled him like a mom would. Clearly she was his wife. She exchanged quick hellos and tried dragging him away, but Chris' fist bump turned into a fist grab, and his wife did not waste any time pulling him away. They met another group of whites, and the black guy posed like a model, showing his muscles. Feeling out of place, Chris headed back to her room, only to find the guests eerily silent, staring at her like prey. Returning, Chris found her phone unplugged. She guessed the maid did it on purpose, but Rosie advised not to overthink. After weird events, Chris vented to her best friend Rod about Susan's hypnosis. Rod, who worked at the precinct, went on high alert. She warned Chris there were cases of black people hypnotized and turned into white sex slaves, but Chris wasn't having it. Just as Chris hung up, the maid stumbled into the room, explaining she accidentally dropped the phone while cleaning. She proactively apologized to Chris, saying, "Don't worry. I can assure you I won't tell anyone about this. I just know that some white folks get nervous sometimes." On hearing Chris, the maid broke down, laughing and crying, as if possessing two souls. Then she started talking to herself like she was a split personality in front of Chris, and the odd behavior chilled Chris to the bone. Not wanting to be near the maid, she headed back to the party and collided with the black guy she had just met. She discreetly pulled out her phone to snap a pic, but forgot to turn off the flash. Maybe it was the flash, but the guy froze mid-sentence, then lunged at her yelling, take me, go you, go you, go you, go you." Thankfully, Rose's parents are doctors. After Susan's hypnotherapy, he calmed down. Dean said it was just the flash. After that drama, Chris had no choice but to leave the party with Rosie, and they headed to the lake to chill. But as soon as they left, a silent auction kicked off. Under Dean's watchful eye, guests began to eagerly raise their bidding paddles. But the auction wasn't for any items, it was for Chris herself. Soon, a blind rich guy claimed her like a prize, and Chris had no clue. Night fell, and when they returned to the villa, the guests had all disappeared, but everyone stood by the door waiting for her return. Chris, oblivious to the danger, gazed at Rose's family, who wore strange smiles. However, upon reaching her room, she sent Rod the photo of the rich black guy she took earlier. Rod called Chris after receiving the message, saying the photo's subject was Andre, missing for weeks. They used to play soccer at the beach together, and that's when Chris realized this isn't her father. This is where it all began. He came to the party with a 30-year-old white girl sex slave. Oh shit. Just then, her phone powered off again. Chris felt the bad vibes. It was like a giant trap was waiting for her. She urgently urged her girlfriend to pack up and leave like